Hello and welcome to another peaceful journey. It's just me, Reuben. I am so glad that you are here with us tonight. Thank you for choosing to spend this time together, letting the day fall away and making space for rest. Tonight, we will be sharing ancient stories of wisdom and balance. Gentle tales from Buddhist tradition that remind us to find peace in simplicity, harmony in our hearts, and stillness in our minds. These are stories to help you let go of the day and drift peacefully into sleep. Before we begin, let's make sure that you are completely comfortable. Adjust your pillows, pull your blankets just so, and let your body settle into the surface beneath you. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. This time is yours, just for rest. Take a slow, deep breath and let it go. Let us begin.
The Parable of the Bamboo Acrobats. Tonight's story takes us to an ancient village square where two acrobats teach us something surprising about how caring for ourselves and caring for others are not separate things at all, but two sides of the same gentle truth. Let yourself settle in now, finding that place of comfort where your body can truly rest, your shoulders softening, your breath finding its own natural rhythm. And know that for these next moments, there's nowhere else you need to be, nothing you need to do, just here, just now. Listening to a story that might offer you something useful, something comforting, something you can carry with you. Tonight, we're traveling back in time to a village in ancient India where the air smells of jasmine and cook fires, where the dust in the roads is warm from the sun, and where, on certain afternoons, people gather in the square to watch acrobats perform feats that seem to defy every law of balance and gravity. Imagine this place with me now, as your breathing continues, easy and natural. The village square is dusty and open, bordered by simple wooden buildings with thatched roofs, their walls worn smooth by weather and time. In the late afternoon, when the work of the day has eased, when the merchants are packing up their stalls and the farmers are heading home, the light turns golden. That particular quality of light, warm and honeyed, filtering through the leaves of the banyan tree that stands at the square's edge, its massive trunk gnarled and ancient, its branches spreading wide like protecting arms. Children play in its shade, their laughter high and bright, while their parents gather to talk, to rest, to watch whatever entertainment might unfold. And on this particular afternoon, there is something to watch. In the center of the square, a tall bamboo pole has been erected. It's taller than any building nearby, maybe 20 feet, maybe more. Its surface smooth and golden brown, swaying just slightly in the breeze. At its base stands a man, middle-aged, lean and strong, his skin weathered by years of sun and practice. This is the bamboo acrobat, the master, and he's preparing for the performance that will earn him and his assistant their living for the day. Can you picture him there, His hands are calloused from years of gripping bamboo. His feet bare and sure against the earth. He wears simple clothing, a wrap of faded cloth, and his face holds that particular kind of focus that comes from doing something dangerous, something that requires every bit of attention you have. Beside him, stretching and preparing, is his assistant. Her name is Medicathalika, a name that means little wooden pillar. Though there's nothing little about her courage or her skill. She's younger, perhaps his student for many years, perhaps even like a daughter to him. She too is lean and strong, her movements fluid, practiced. She wraps her hands, checks the bindings on her simple performance clothes, and looks up at that tall bamboo pole with eyes that have made this climb many times before. The crowd begins to gather, slowly, in the way people do when something interesting is about to happen. Mothers with children on their hips, old men who remember watching this master perform when he was young himself. Merchants curious about the spectacle, monks in their orange robes, pausing on their way to evening meditation. There's anticipation in the air, that particular quality of waiting, when something risky is about to unfold, when skill will be tested, when two people will trust their lives to their training, their focus, and each other. The master approaches the bamboo pole. He places both hands on it, feeling its surface, testing its stability. Then, in one smooth motion, he begins to climb, hand over hand, his body close to the pole, his movements efficient and sure. The bamboo flexes slightly under his weight, bending and straightening, a rhythm as old as bamboo forests and human ingenuity. Up he goes, up and up, while the crowd watches in silence. You can hear the sound of his hands on the bamboo, a soft sliding sound, and his breathing, steady and controlled. The pole sways more as he climbs higher, and you might imagine how that would feel. The ground getting farther away, the air getting cooler, the whole world suddenly visible from this new height. Finally, he reaches the top. He positions himself carefully, finding his balance, his feet planted on a small platform where the bamboo is bound and reinforced, his body still and centered. The pole sways gently, back and forth, like a tree in the wind, and he sways with it, not fighting it, just moving as it moves, breathing as it breathes. And now comes the harder part. From the ground, he calls down to Medicathalika, "Come, my dear, climb up and stand upon my shoulders." She doesn't hesitate. "Okay, master," she calls back, her voice clear and strong, and she begins her climb. Imagine watching her, this young woman ascending this tall swaying pole, hand over hand, her movements graceful, practiced. The crowd holds its breath. Up she climbs, higher and higher, while the pole bends more under the weight of two people, swaying wider, the physics of balance becoming more precarious with each foot she ascends. When she reaches him, the master bends slightly, offering his shoulders as a platform, and she, with movements so smooth they seem almost casual, steps onto him, one foot, then the other. She rises slowly, carefully, until she's standing on his shoulders, balanced there 20 feet above the ground, the bamboo swaying beneath them both. The crowd gasps, then falls silent. This is the moment. This is what they came to see. And now, balanced there, high above the watching crowd, the master speaks. His voice carries down to the people below. But really, he's speaking to his assistant, to the person whose feet rest on his shoulders, whose weight he's bearing, whose life is literally in his hands. "You look after me, my dear Medakatalika," he says, his voice steady despite the concentration required to keep them both balanced. "And I'll look after you. If we watch over each other, protect each other, we'll perform our routine, earn our payment, and climb down safely." It seems like good advice, doesn't it? It seems kind, thoughtful. The words of someone who understands they're in this together. Watch over me, I'll watch over you. Take care of me, I'll take care of you. Partnership, mutual protection. But Medakatalika, standing there on his shoulders, feeling the sway of the bamboo, knowing that her balance depends on her own awareness, her own body, her own center, she sees something different. "That will not do at all, Master," she says, and there's no disrespect in her voice, only clarity, only the truth she's learned from years of balancing in high places. "You look after yourself," she continues, "and I will look after myself. When each of us maintains our own balance, our own awareness, our own center, then we'll perform well, earn our payment, and climb down safely. That's the right way." The crowd can't hear this exchange clearly. The words are for each other, but they can see what happens next. The two acrobats begin their routine. Medakatalika moves at the master's shoulders, shifts her weight, extends her arms, and he, bearing her weight, moves too, bends, adjusts, responding not by trying to control her movements, but by staying centered in himself, stable in his own balance. They move together, but separately, each responsible for their own equilibrium, each maintaining their own awareness. And because of this, because each is fully present to their own balance, the routine flows. The bamboo sways. They sway with it. It's beautiful. It's precise. And most importantly, it's safe. When they finally climb down, first her, then him, and stand once more on solid ground, the crowd erupts in applause. Coins are tossed. Payment is made. The performance was a success. But something more than entertainment happened up on that bamboo pole. Something about how we care for ourselves and others. Something about balance, about responsibility, about the surprising truth that looking after yourself is not selfish, it's essential. And when you do it well, when you maintain your own center, your own awareness, you actually become more capable of being there for others. Now, as you rest here, your body perhaps even more relaxed than when we began. Let me tell you that this story wasn't just told in the village square. It was told by the Buddha himself to his monks as a teaching about mindfulness. The Buddha watched acrobats too. He saw how they worked. He understood what Medakatalika understood, that the master's well-meaning offer to look after each other actually missed something crucial about how care really works. Looking after oneself, the Buddha taught, One looks after others. Looking after others, one looks after oneself. Not one or the other, both at the same time. Two sides of a single truth. And here's what he meant, in the most practical, everyday sense. Looking after yourself to look after others. When Medicathalika said, "I will look after myself," she wasn't being selfish. She was being responsible. She understood that if she lost her own balance trying to monitor his, they would both fall. Her job was to stay present to her own body, her own center, her own breath. That's what made her reliable. That's what made her a good partner. And you might find this same truth in your own life, in ways both small and profound. Tomorrow morning, when someone needs something from you, whether it's your attention, your help, your patience, notice how you feel. Are you centered? Have you eaten? Have you had a moment to yourself? Or are you running on empty, trying to pour from a cup that's already dry? In Buddhism, there's this beautiful understanding that you can't offer genuine care from a place of depletion, not sustainable care, not the kind that nourishes both people. When you're depleted, what you offer isn't really care. It's often resentment disguised as service, or exhaustion disguised as love. So looking after yourself, truly looking after yourself, means things like taking 3 conscious breaths before responding to a difficult email. Just 3. In through the nose, feeling your belly expand, out through the mouth, feeling your body settle. That's you maintaining your balance. That's you looking after yourself so you can respond with clarity instead of reactivity. Saying, "I need a moment" when your child or partner or friend needs something and you're not in a place to give it yet. Not saying no to them, just saying, "Let me gather myself. Let me find my center, and then I can really be here for you." That's not selfishness. That's Medicathalika on the bamboo pole, staying aware of her own balance so she doesn't cause both people to fall. Eating when you're hungry, resting when you're tired, even when there are things to do, even when people need you. The Buddha taught that the body is your first monastery, your first place of practice. If you don't tend to it, if you ignore its basic needs, you can't maintain awareness. You lose your balance. And then what you offer others isn't presence. It's just the momentum of habit and obligation. This is what he meant by, how does one look after others by looking after oneself? By practicing mindfulness, by developing it, by doing it a lot. When you practice staying present with yourself, with your breath, with your body, with your actual experience moment by moment, you develop a kind of internal steadiness, an awareness that doesn't waver. And from that steadiness, that's when you can truly help someone else. But the teaching goes both directions. It's not just that caring for yourself allows you to care for others. It's also that caring for others helps you care for yourself. Listen to what the Buddha said. How does one look after oneself by looking after others? By patience, by non-harming, by loving kindness, by caring. This might seem backwards at first. How does being patient with someone else help you? How does showing kindness to another person take care of you? But think about what happens when you're patient with someone who's struggling, someone who's moving slowly, someone who doesn't understand something you explained already. What happens in your own chest, your own shoulders? When you choose patience, when you let go of the rush and the irritation, when you meet someone where they are, something softens in you. The tight grip of frustration loosens. Your breath deepens. You remember that you too are learning. You too sometimes move slowly. You too sometimes don't understand. That's you looking after yourself through looking after them. You're cultivating qualities in your own heart, patience, kindness, understanding, that make your own life more peaceful. Or consider non-harming. When you choose not to speak harshly, even when you're angry, even when you feel justified, you're not just protecting the other person from your words. You're protecting yourself from becoming someone who speaks that way, from living with the aftermath of harm you caused, from the guilt and shame and distance that harsh words create. Every time you choose non-harming, you're maintaining your own integrity, your own sense of being someone you can respect. That's self-care, even though it looks like other care. And loving kindness, metta, the practice of wishing well for others. This might be the clearest example of all. In Buddhist practice, when you're feeling lonely or disconnected or unworthy, one of the most healing things you can do is practice metta for others. You might sit quietly and silently repeat phrases like, "May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease." You direct these wishes towards someone you love, then towards someone neutral, then even towards someone difficult, and something remarkable happens. As you wish these things for others, as you open your heart to their well-being, your own heart softens, your own loneliness eases, not because someone did something for you, but because the act of caring, even silently, even in your imagination, shifts something in you. You can't genuinely wish for someone else's happiness without touching your own capacity for happiness. You can't send kindness out without feeling kindness move through you. This is looking after yourself by looking after others. So here's what the Buddha saw in that bamboo acrobat story. Here's what Medakatalika understood from years of balancing in high places. It's not one or the other. It's both at once. When you're standing on a bamboo pole 20 feet in the air, you can't sacrifice your own balance to maintain someone else's. That helps no one. You both fall. But you also can't maintain your own balance while being harsh, while being impatient, while closing your heart to the person you're standing on. That kind of isolated self-focus creates rigidity, creates separation, creates the kind of tension that makes balance harder, not easier. The way through is this: stay aware of yourself. Stay present to your own breath, your own body, your own center. That's your responsibility. That's your practice. And from that awareness, from that stability, let care flow naturally toward others. Don't try to control their balance. Don't try to fix them or manage them or take responsibility for their feelings. Just as you stand in your own center. Be patient, be kind, be non-harming. Let your stability be a gift to them. Not through rescuing or controlling, but through simply being steady yourself. That's what Medakathalika and her master did on that bamboo pole. Each maintained their own balance, and in doing so, together, they performed something beautiful, something that neither could have done alone. And perhaps, as you rest here now, so close to sleep, you might carry this understanding with you into tomorrow. When someone you love is struggling, and you feel that pull to fix it, to make it better, to sacrifice your own well-being to rescue them, maybe you'll remember the bamboo pole. Maybe you'll take a breath and ask yourself, am I centered right now? Am I in my own balance? And if the answer is no, maybe you'll tend to that first, not selfishly, but wisely, because you can't help them fall less hard by falling yourself. And when you're feeling depleted or resentful or like you're giving too much, maybe you'll remember that looking after yourself is not a luxury or an indulgence. It's your part of the practice. It's how you stay balanced enough to be truly useful. Taking time to breathe, to rest, to eat, to do whatever helps you come back to your center. That's not selfish. That's Medakathalika saying, I will look after myself so the performance can succeed. And when you're tempted to close your heart, to protect yourself through hardness or withdrawal, maybe you'll remember the other side of the teaching, that you look after yourself by being patient, by choosing non-harming, by keeping your heart soft, even when it would be easier to shut down, because those qualities, patience, kindness, care, they don't just help others, they help you. They make you someone you want to be. They create peace in your own heart. There's a simple practice you might try. Whenever you notice yourself getting off balance, whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or resentful, or like everything's too much, pause. Just pause. Place one hand on your chest. Feel your breath there, rising and falling, and silently say to yourself, I am here, I am aware, I am doing my best. That's you looking after yourself. That's you checking your own balance. And then, if there's someone who needs you, someone waiting for your attention or your care, you might take one more breath and silently say, may I be patient, may I be kind, may I meet this person with an open heart. That's you looking after others. That's you choosing qualities that will help both of you, both at once. Your balance and your kindness, your steadiness and your care. That's the way down from the bamboo pole. That's the way through. And so, as this story finds its ending, as you sink deeper into rest, imagine that village square again. The sun is setting now. The golden light has turned to amber, then to purple, then to the soft blue of evening. The crowd has dispersed. The coins have been collected. The bamboo pole still stands in the center of the square, swaying gently in the evening breeze, just as it did before the performance, just as it will tomorrow. The master and Medakathalika sit together near the banyan tree, sharing rice from a simple bowl. Their day's work done. They're quiet, tired in that good way that comes from doing something well, from meeting a challenge and surviving it. together but separate, each maintaining their own balance, each grateful for the other's steadiness. Somewhere nearby, a temple bell rings. Its sound moves across the village, deep and resonant, fading slowly into the quiet evening. And in that sound, there's something about balance, about how one thing can be itself and also in relationship, complete and also connected. You are like that too, complete in yourself and connected to everyone around you. Your balance matters and your care matters. Both at once, always both at once. Tomorrow, when you wake, you'll have another chance to practice this, another chance to maintain your own center while keeping your heart soft, another chance to breathe before you respond, another chance to be patient, to be kind, to look after yourself by looking after others, and to look after others by looking after yourself. For now, let yourself rest completely. Let your breath be soft and easy. Let your body sink into whatever holds you. You are safe here. You have done enough today. And tomorrow, you'll climb the bamboo pole again. And you'll remember what Medakathalika knew, that the way to stay balanced, the way to be truly useful, is to stand in your own center. And from that steadiness, let care flow naturally, like breath, like the evening breeze, like bells ringing across a village square as day turns to night. Looking after yourself, you look after others. Looking after others, you look after yourself. Both at once, breath by breath, moment by moment, all the way down, all the way home. Sleep well, dear friend, sleep well. And as this story settles into silence, may you carry its truth into your dreams and into your waking life, that you are both responsible for yourself and connected to everyone, both steady in your own balance and soft in your care for others. May you rest peacefully, knowing you are exactly enough, exactly as you are. Our next story takes us to an ancient mountain monastery, where a monk named Sona discovers something surprising about effort and rest, about pushing too hard and not pushing enough, and about finding that place of balance where everything flows naturally. Let yourself settle in now, finding that comfortable position where your body can truly rest, your shoulders softening, your breath finding its own easy rhythm. And know that for these next moments, there's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, just here, just now, listening to a story that might help you find your own balance between effort and ease, between striving and allowing, between doing and being. Tonight, we're traveling to a place called Vulture Peak Mountain. In ancient India, where the air is thin and clean, where eagles circle on thermal currents, and where monks practice in small caves and simple dwellings carved into the mountainside. Not far from the main peak, there's a place called the Cool Wood. Imagine it with me now, as your breathing continues, natural and easy. It's a grove of sal trees, their trunks straight and tall, their branches creating a canopy of shade that keeps the ground beneath cool, even in the heat of the day. The light filters through the leaves, creating patterns of shadow and brightness on the forest floor, shifting and moving as the branches sway in the breeze. You can hear the sound of that breeze through the leaves, a gentle rustling, like water flowing over stones, constant and soothing. The ground is soft here, covered in fallen leaves and moss, and there are smooth stones arranged in paths where monks walk in meditation, back and forth, the same path walked thousands of times until the stones are worn smooth and the earth is packed firm. In this cool wood lives a monk named Sona. He's been here for some time now, practicing diligently, following every instruction he's been given about meditation and mindfulness and discipline. His dwelling is simple, just a small hut with a roof of woven palm leaves, a sleeping mat inside, a water bowl, nothing more. And Sona is trying so hard. Every day, from early morning until late at night, Sona practices walking meditation on his path, back and forth, trying to stay present with each step, trying to maintain awareness, trying to reach that state of freedom his teachers have described. His practice is intense, hours and hours of walking. The Buddha taught that walking meditation helps develop concentration and clarity, helps settle the restless energy of the body, helps create the conditions for insight to arise. So Sona walks and walks and walks, but something is happening to his feet. The skin has begun to crack, to split from the constant friction of bare feet on stone and earth. At first, it was just soreness, a tenderness in the soles, but he didn't stop. He thought, this is what practice requires. This is dedication. This is what it means to be serious about liberation. So he kept walking, and the soreness became blisters, and the blisters broke open. And now, when he walks, his footsteps leave red marks on the pale stones beneath him. He still doesn't stop. Can you feel what's happening here? This intensity, this pushing through pain, this belief that more is always better, that harder is always more sincere. You might recognize something familiar in it. We've all done this in some way. Pushed too hard, ignored our body's signals, believed that if a little effort is good, then maximum effort must be better. One afternoon, after hours of walking meditation, Sona sits down to rest. His feet are throbbing, his body is exhausted, and in the quiet of that moment, a thought begins to form in his awareness. It comes softly at first, almost like a whisper, then grows stronger. I'm working so hard. I'm one of the Buddha's students who gives everything to this practice. And yet, liberation still feels far away. My mind still clings and grasps. Maybe this path isn't for me. Maybe I should give up. The thought continues. My family is wealthy. I could return to that comfortable life, experience pleasure again, live well. I could still be generous and helpful. Maybe that would be wiser than this. this endless striving that bears no fruit. Sit with that thought for a moment. As you rest here, haven't we all had a version of this thought when we're trying so hard at something, a relationship, a career, a creative project, a health goal, and it's not working, and we're exhausted, and we think, maybe I should just give up. Maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe there's an easier way. Sona sits there, wounded feet, exhausted body, discouraged mind, contemplating abandoning everything he's worked toward. And in that exact moment, something extraordinary happens. The Buddha is sitting on Vulture Peak Mountain, perhaps a mile away. He's in meditation, his awareness vast and clear, when suddenly he senses Sona's troubled thinking, not through any magical power, but through the natural clarity that comes from deep practice. He simply perceives what's happening in Sona's heart. And because he cares, because a student is suffering unnecessarily, the Buddha does something he rarely does. He uses his capacity to appear wherever he's needed, in less time than it takes to stretch out your arm or draw it back in. The Buddha disappears from Vulture Peak and materializes in the cool wood, right in front of Sona. Imagine Sona's surprise. One moment he's alone with his discouraging thoughts, his wounded feet, his exhaustion. The next moment, his teacher, the Buddha himself, is sitting there on the seat prepared for visitors, calm and present, his robe settling around him, his eyes kind and knowing. Sona immediately bows, pressing his forehead to the ground in respect and reverence. Then he sits up, taking his place to the side as students do, waiting. The Buddha speaks, and his voice is gentle. No judgment in it at all. Sona, just a moment ago while you sat here alone, were you thinking that despite all your dedication, freedom still eludes you? Were you considering returning to your former life of comfort and wealth? And Sona, because there's no point in hiding the truth from someone who already perceives it, simply says, "Yes, teacher." The Buddha doesn't launch into a lecture. He doesn't scold Sona for his doubt or praise him for his effort. Instead, he asks a question, a simple question about something from Sona's past. Sona, before you joined us, when you lived as a householder, did you know how to play the lute? Sona must have been surprised by this question. What does music have to do with meditation, with liberation, with the crisis he's facing? But he answers honestly, "Yes, teacher. I was skilled at it." The lute was a stringed instrument, something like a small harp or guitar, with strings stretched across a wooden frame. Playing it required tuning the strings carefully, adjusting the tension until each one produced exactly the right note. Too loose and the sound would be dull and flat. Too tight and it might snap, or produce a harsh, brittle sound. Tell me, Sona, the Buddha continues, when you pulled the strings extremely tight, stretching them to their limit, did the instrument produce beautiful, harmonious music? Sona thinks about this. He remembers the feel of over-tight strings under his fingers, the way they vibrated with a thin, strained quality, the way the whole instrument seemed to tremble with tension. "No, teacher," he says. "And what about when you left the strings slack?" the Buddha asks. "When they hung loose with barely any tension at all? Did beautiful, harmonious music come from the instrument then?" Again, Sona remembers the dull, lifeless sound of slack strings, the way notes would die almost as soon as they were played, the lack of resonance, of beauty, of life. "No, teacher," he says again. "But when you tune the strings to just the right tension," the Buddha says, and now his voice has that quality of arriving at something important. Neither pulled too tight nor left too loose. When the tension was perfectly balanced, did the instrument then produce beautiful music you could truly play? And Sona sees it now, sees where this is going. "Yes, teacher," he says. And even in those two words, you can hear understanding beginning to dawn. The Buddha leans forward slightly, his eyes meeting Sona's with such compassion. It's the same with spiritual practice, Sona. When you strain with excessive intensity, the mind becomes agitated and stressed. You're working so hard that you can't relax into awareness. You're pulled so tight that there's no space for insight to emerge, no room for peace to settle naturally. And when you apply insufficient energy, the mind becomes dull and unfocused. If you're too comfortable, too relaxed, nothing deepens. The mind stays foggy, distracted, without clarity. You need to calibrate your energy to the optimal level, just as you would tune a lute. Not straining, not coasting, but finding that place where effort and tranquility support each other. Where you're engaged but not exhausted, present but not rigid. Bring all your faculties into this same harmony. Sona sits there, absorbing this. His wounded feet suddenly make sense in a new way. They're not signs of dedication. They're signs of imbalance, of trying too hard, of believing that more effort is always better, when sometimes what's needed is actually less. "Yes, teacher," Sona says. And this time, the words carry commitment, understanding, relief. The Buddha has given him permission, not to give up, but to ease up, to find a sustainable pace, to stop hurting himself in the name of practice. And then, as suddenly as he appeared, the Buddha disappears. He returns to Vulture Peak Mountain, leaving Sona alone in the cool wood, but no longer discouraged, no longer confused about what to do next. After the Buddha leaves, Sona sits quietly for a long time. The afternoon light is softening, turning golden through the sal trees. He can hear birds settling in for evening, their calls echoing through the forest. And he begins to adjust his practice. First, he tends to his feet. He washes them gently in cool water, wraps them in clean cloth. He gives them time to heal. This isn't laziness. This is wisdom. You can't practice if your body is breaking down. Then, when he returns to walking meditation, he walks differently, not for hours without stopping, not pushing through pain, but walking at a pace that feels sustainable, alert, but not strained, focused, but not rigid. He sits in meditation, and instead of forcing his mind to concentrate, instead of gripping his attention like overtight strings, he allows his mind to settle naturally, present but spacious, engaged but at ease. He calibrates energy with tranquility, effort with relaxation, doing with allowing. And something shifts. The practice begins to flow. Insight arises not from force, but from the space created by balanced effort. Peace settles not because he's demanding it, but because he's allowing it. Living in solitude, dedicated but not depleted, steady but not strained. In a remarkably short time, he realizes what he'd been seeking all along. Liberation, freedom, that state where clinging dissolves, where the mind rests naturally in peace, where nothing needs to be added or taken away because everything is already complete. Sona awakens fully, not through maximum effort, but through balanced effort, not by pushing harder, but by finding the right tension, like a lute string tuned perfectly, making beautiful music. He understands directly. This cycle of rebirth has ended. The training is complete. What needed to be done is finished. This existence requires nothing more. And perhaps, as you rest here now, so deeply relaxed, you might find something useful in this story for your own life. Because we all have our versions of Sona's wounded feet, don't we? Areas where we're trying too hard, pushing too much, believing that if we just work harder, sacrifice more, push through the pain, then we'll finally achieve what we're seeking. Maybe it's at work, where you're staying late every night, answering emails at midnight, believing that more hours means more success, while your body gets tired and your relationships suffer, and the work itself starts to feel joyless. Or maybe it's in your relationships, where you're trying so hard to be perfect, to anticipate every need, to never disappoint anyone, and you're exhausting yourself. And paradoxically, all that effort is making things more strained, not less. Or maybe it's in your spiritual practice, your meditation or prayer or yoga, where you're pushing yourself to sit longer, practice more, achieve some state you've read about, and the effort itself is creating the tension that prevents the peace you're seeking. In Buddhism, this teaching about balance is central. It's even called the middle way, the path between extremes. Not too much, not too little, but just right. And here's what that might look like in your daily life. Tomorrow morning, when you're facing something that requires effort, whether it's work or exercise or a difficult conversation, try this. Check in with your body first. Place one hand on your belly. Feel your breath there. And ask yourself, how tight are my strings right now? Am I wound too tight, tense and strained? Or am I too loose, avoiding what needs attention? Just notice, no judgment, just awareness. If you notice you're too tight, wound up and stressed, you might try what's called conscious relaxation. It's a simple practice from Buddhism. Take 3 slow breaths. On each exhale, consciously soften one area. First your jaw, then your shoulders, then your belly. You don't have to become completely relaxed. Just ease the tension by 10 or 20%, like loosening an over-tight string, just enough. Then, from this slightly softer place, engage with whatever's in front of you. You might find you can work more efficiently, think more clearly, respond more skillfully when you're not wound quite so tight. And if you notice you're too loose, procrastinating or avoiding or feeling unfocused, you might try what's called arousing energy. Stand up, move your body, take a few quick breaths, set a clear intention. For the next 20 minutes, I will focus fully on this task. Not for the whole day, not until exhaustion. Just 20 minutes of engaged effort, like tightening a slack string, bringing it to the right tension. This is the practice of tuning yourself, moment by moment, throughout the day. Sometimes you need to ease up. Sometimes you need to engage more fully. The wisdom is in knowing which is needed, when, and being willing to adjust. This teaching about balance applies deeply to how you care for yourself. In Buddhism, there's this beautiful understanding that self-care isn't about being lazy or indulgent. It's about maintaining the conditions for practice, for living skillfully, for being able to show up for your life. When Sona allowed his feet to heal, when he adjusted his practice to be sustainable, he wasn't being weak, he was being wise. Because you can't walk the path of practice or the path of life if you're injuring yourself along the way. So if you're someone who tends to push too hard, who feels guilty resting, who believes that sacrifice equals virtue, here's permission from an ancient teaching. Rest is part of the work. Ease is part of effort. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's tuning your instrument so it can make beautiful music. That might mean taking a full lunch break instead of eating at your desk. Saying no to an extra commitment when your schedule is already full. Going to bed instead of finishing one more task. Asking for help instead of carrying everything alone. These aren't signs of weakness. They're adjustments toward balance. They're loosening strings that have been wound too tight. And if you're someone who tends toward too little effort, who avoids what's difficult, who knows you could engage more fully, but you're coasting, here's the other side of the teaching. Ease without effort becomes stagnation. You need some tension to make music. You need to engage to grow. That might mean starting that project you've been avoiding, having that difficult conversation, sitting with uncomfortable feelings instead of immediately distracting yourself, showing up for your practice, your work, your relationships, even when you don't feel like it, not pushing to exhaustion, not straining, but tightening strings that have been too loose. The wisdom is in the middle. Always the middle. And here's something else important in Sona's story. He was at the point of giving up. He tried so hard, practiced so diligently, and it seemed like nothing was working. Sound familiar? We've all been there. Working at something important. A relationship, a health goal, a creative project, a spiritual practice, putting in real effort and not seeing the results we hoped for. It's so tempting in those moments to think, maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I should just quit. But notice what happened with Sona. The problem wasn't that he couldn't do it. The problem was that his approach was out of balance. Once he adjusted, once he found the right tension, everything shifted. The same practice that was creating frustration and exhaustion became the path to freedom and peace. So if you're feeling discouraged about something in your life right now, some area where you've been trying and it's not working, maybe consider, is this genuinely not right for me? Or have I been approaching it with the wrong tension? Maybe you've been trying too hard, wound too tight, and what's needed is easing up, giving it more space, allowing rather than forcing. Or maybe you haven't been trying hard enough, too loose, too casual, and what's needed is more committed engagement, more focus, more consistent effort. The path forward might not be abandoning the path. It might be adjusting how you walk it. Here's a simple practice from Buddhism that you can use anytime you're feeling out of balance. Sit comfortably or lie down if you're already resting. Close your eyes if that feels okay. Take 3 slow breaths, just noticing the sensation of breathing. Then scan through your body, starting at the top of your head, moving slowly down. And notice where you're holding tension. Your jaw, your shoulders, your belly, your legs. Wherever you find tightness, imagine breathing into that place. And on the exhale, letting it soften just a little. You're loosening over tight strings. Then, check in with your energy. Notice if there's a quality of dullness or fog or disconnection. If there is, sit up a little straighter. Take a deeper breath. Open your eyes. Invite a bit more alertness. A bit more presence. You're tightening strings that are too loose. Finally, imagine yourself as a lute, beautifully tuned, not straining, not slack, but balanced just right, capable of making beautiful music. And ask yourself, what does balanced effort look like for me right now? What would it feel like to engage fully without exhausting myself? To rest without checking out? Trust what arises. Your wisdom knows the right tension for your strings. And so, as this story finds its ending, as you settle even more deeply into rest, imagine that cool wood again. It's evening now. The light has turned soft and blue. The birds have quieted. The breeze has gentled to almost nothing. Sona sits on his meditation seat, feet healed, body at ease, mind clear and peaceful. He's not straining anymore. He's not avoiding anymore. He's simply present, engaged but relaxed, alert but at ease, like a lute tuned perfectly, making music without effort. The Buddha is back on Vulture Peak Mountain, sitting in meditation, knowing that a student has found his way, not through maximum effort, not through giving up, but through balance, through wisdom, through understanding that the middle way, between too tight and too loose, is where freedom lives. And you, resting here, in this moment, you too can find that balance. Not perfectly, not forever, but moment by moment, breath by breath, tuning your strings as you go, loosening when you're too tight, engaging when you're too loose, learning, adjusting, growing. Tomorrow, when you wake, you'll face new challenges, new places where effort is needed, new places where ease is called for, and you can carry Sona's teaching with you. Check the tension, adjust as needed. Find the place where energy and calm support each other, where you can engage fully without exhausting yourself, where you can make beautiful music. For now, let yourself rest completely. Your strings are tuned just right for this moment, which is rest, which is release, which is allowing sleep to come naturally, like a note fading gently into silence, like evening settling over mountains, like breath slowing, until there's nothing left to do, nowhere to go, nothing to become, just this, just rest, just peace. You have done enough, you are enough, and the practice continues in its own time, in its own way, with exactly the right effort, like a lute string tuned perfectly, making beautiful music without strain, without forcing, just naturally, beautifully, easily. Sleep well, dear friend. Sleep well. May you wake tomorrow knowing that balance is always available, that you can adjust your effort moment by moment, and that both striving and resting have their place in a life well lived. May you be at peace, tuned just right, making your own beautiful music